It is official. Mayor Brandon Scott is running for another term in office. Coming up, we take a look at his announcement and who's backing him in the race for mayor. And city residents blame new bike lanes for massive traffic backups, with some saying they've never seen bikes on them anyway. FOX45 takes a closer look at their frustration.
And we're waking up to a beautiful but cold start to the day. I'll let you know how high temperatures get and what to expect for Thanksgiving this week coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good Sunday morning to you. Look at that gorgeous sky over Towson this morning. You're in the right spot this November 19th. Thanks for being with us. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's jump right into your forecast. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with some cooler temperatures this morning.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, that's right. We are starting off with chilly temperatures, but it's absolutely beautiful outside. We've got a beautiful sunrise in the background over Towson. Temperatures, though, only at 37, and it feels a little bit cooler. Feels more like the mid-30s. Around the rest of the state, the 30s and the 40s. Certainly cooler than yesterday's start, but you'll notice that by the afternoon, it'll be pretty nice and pretty quiet. Over the next 12 hours, temperatures rise to the upper 50s and the low 60s under plenty of sunshine, but get ready for cooler temperatures this week. I'll break down what you can expect as we get closer to Thanksgiving in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
We cannot turn back, and that's why I am running for re-election to continue to be the mayor of Baltimore City. Get a yard sign, and most of all, spread the word. Get your friends, neighbors, and in the words of my mentor, our forever Congressman Elijah Cummings, get Lottie, Dottie, and everybody to join our movement, because Baltimore, our renaissance is here, our future is now. We will move our city forward, not backwards.
A big announcement coming from Mayor Brandon Scott. The mayor announcing to a packed auditorium that he's running for re-election in 2024. Scott touting his accomplishments in the past 3 years as he promised to push Baltimore forward. Scott was joined by community leaders and several lawmakers, including Senator Corey McRae and Councilman James Torrance, who say Scott needs more time to finish what he started, and when it comes to fully realizing Baltimore's renaissance.
Brandon Scott. Brandon understands from his own experience about the critical importance of being there for our kids.
Because he's not just leading, but he's leading for our generation, George. When I think about every grandmother, every mother, every auntie, every uncle can see their self, can see their son, can see their nephew, can see their grandson in Brandon Scott.
He has programs that go back into the institutions. He has programs that make sure that we have the resources that we need. And he's working hard to make sure that our community allows us to come back home and be resourceful, be a benefit to our community.
Now, despite the praise, the Scott administration has dealt with some issues over the past 3 years, including turnover in some key positions. That includes his former chief of staff, former Monsu director Shante Jackson, former Department of Public Works head Jason Mitchell, and then leaders of the city's fire and police department in just this last year. That turnover is leading to concerns of instability within City Hall. The mayor's also failed to meet some campaign promises when it comes to public safety. As his opponent, Sheila Dixon, points out, when Scott was elected, he promised to reduce homicides by 15% each term and to drop homicides under 300 in his first year. Keep in mind, Baltimore's on track to meet that goal this year, but it did take the mayor 3 years to make it happen.
The promise certainly has not been fulfilled. Murders have gone up every year except this year. So you've had a tremendous uptick in violence in the city, which is exactly the opposite of what he promised.
Well, we questioned Mayor Scott on why he feels like he should take credit for the drop in homicides. The mayor doubled down on those claims, but Fox 45 has been looking into a number of changes in Baltimore that could be contributing to that decline. Vincent Hill explains.
Fox 45 pressing Mayor Scott on why he feels he's responsible for a reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings.
Why do you take credit for that?
Because we put in the effort, right?
Efforts, he says, like Monzi and Safe Streets.
It's important for Baltimore to note 20% reduction, which is double the national average.
But looking at the data, a significant drop in those crimes happened when U.S. Attorney Eric Barron made this announcement with Mayor Scott in the background.
This Al Capone model of prosecution is designed to take violent people off the streets, by any appropriate legal means necessary.
And when City State's Attorney Ivan Bates was sworn into office, a much tougher on crime prosecutor than Marilyn Mosby, who Mayor Scott once shared the stage with.
Now this mayor, Mayor Scott, the commissioner, and I.
Since Barron and Bates took office, homicides are down 20%, and non-fatal shootings 9%.
Some data shows that when Ivan Bates and Eric Barron took office, we began to see
I think that's false data.
The mayor doubling down, saying he's the one responsible for a safer Baltimore.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The rest are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
Political analyst John Deedy calling those comments political.
The mayor, smart politically, will take credit for this stuff because when you're running for re-election and numbers are going down, you want to hang a star on it.
And pointing to the problems the mayor's claims are based on.
But the problem is it gets mitigated by the fact that now you have the feds looking into the Safe Streets location and maybe looking into other things.
Well, during this campaign event, the mayor touted the Safe Streets program, a cornerstone of his crime-fighting plan. Fox 45 News has spent the week pressing him about the program time and time again, working to get answers after the FBI raided at least one location last month and the homes of a number of employees. One employee is now facing state charges. Sources say it could be over alleged gang ties.
What do you say to taxpayers who are concerned about the possible link between this street gang in Baltimore and this program funded by the government that's supposed to prevent violence from happening?
What I'll say, Mackenzie, what I always say, no matter who it is, right? If they're doing that kind of activity, whether they're a police officer, whether they're a DPW worker, whether they work at the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, anybody, any individual that has those kind of ties will be dealt with through law enforcement.
I don't care if it's Mackenzie Frost, whoever it is. If they're in the streets of Baltimore and they're doing things with BGF or any other organized person, if we find out, we will do what we do all the time. If you're involved in illegal activity, it can be my mother. She'll be treated the same way.
Now, for years, Fox 45 News has been fighting for details on Safe Streets, demanding answers from city leaders on who is hired by the program, what workers do on a daily basis, and how the money given to Safe Streets is spent. Now, a taxpayer watchdog says the lack of transparency in this program is alarming, especially with the new developments with the FBI investigation.
Fox 45 filed your Sunshine Open Records request asking for the payroll names of the violence interrupters that work for the Safe Streets program. Those names were redacted from the payroll information. Now you have the city's top charities running this program. You got Catholic Charities running this. You got LifeBridge running this. And look, they were not transparent with who works in those positions. And now you've done a great job of, over the course of the last 10 to 12 years, exposing gang infiltration on the violence interrupter payroll.
Fox 45 News will continue to press city leaders on answers for Safe Streets, the spending, and the latest on this FBI investigation as we learn more. And AI says it's fired its CEO following an internal investigation. Why experts claim this could change the AI industry as we know it.
And this afternoon, we're getting ready for above average temperatures for this time of year, but we'll have lower numbers that follow for the rest of the week. I'll let you know how it looks for Thanksgiving in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
All right, in your consumer news here, OpenAI, the company behind the viral ChatGPT website, has fired its CEO and founder, Sam Altman. The company said in a statement an internal investigation found Altman was not always truthful with the board. The OpenAI chief technology officer will serve as the interim CEO until a permanent successor is chosen. Now, news of Altman's firing comes just after he served as the master of ceremonies at OpenAI's first developer conference. It was held in San Francisco last week. Experts say his departure has created uncertainty for what the industry's future holds.
Look, I think ultimately what ends up happening is that you start to have founders and CEOs that are bigger than the board, bigger than the company. And that's really what played out here in terms of with Altman, that became the face of AI globally. And I think that's from the view of the White House to Wall Street to Silicon Valley. And there's right now going to be a lot of ramifications from this, I think, for months and years to come.
Well, ChatGPT, which currently has 100 million active users, launched late last year, making Altman an overnight celebrity in the AI world. Well, what a better way to take a trip down memory lane than to get together with some old farts. Still ahead, some retired firefighters that came together to give back to one community. And the Maryland Teachers Union bringing in record amount of money, but it's unclear where that money's going. Project Baltimore is looking into how the money might not be benefiting the students. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. The State Teachers Union is raking in a record number of dollars intended to improve education. But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, most of that money is not going to students.
The annual increases are pretty damn troubling.
Powerful reactions to a Project Baltimore investigation into the Maryland State Education Association, the Teachers Union.
I'm suggesting that what we have seen, Brian, is a creation of a jobs factory that only cares 75,000 members they have in MSEA, cares about creating more jobs than it does elevating the education.
We analyzed MSEA's federal tax filings and found revenues hit record highs last year of nearly $26.5 million. as student test scores have plummeted. The tax-exempt organization, with a stated mission to elevate the quality of public education, we've learned, has amassed more than $45 million in assets.
What is the plan for this money? How do you plan to spend this $45 million?
One thing that is going down like a rock are the school test scores.
Yeah. That should concern every parent in the entire state.
Now, we're learning more about how MSEA is spending its money. Money that typically starts as tax dollars, which go to schools, then teachers, who pay union dues. Look at this chart from MSEA's federal filing. At least 11 employees earned more than $200,000 in total compensation last year. Christy Anderson, the general counsel, earned $285,000. Sean Johnson, the executive director, earned $276,000. And Kathy Perry, the assistant executive director, earned $259,000. If we dig deeper into the numbers, we can see $16.9 million went towards salaries, other compensation, employee benefits for the union's 93 employees. If $16.9 million went to 93 employees, that means on average, union employees earned nearly $182,000 in total compensation. Keep in mind, MSEA is a tax-exempt nonprofit with a specific mission to elevate public education.
The unions should be helping the schools, not helping themselves. And that's what's happening here.
David Williams is with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance.
It's shameful to see that the union is getting paid these exorbitant amounts of salary compensation while students are failing.
According to federal test scores, we can see Maryland students are declining. In 8th grade math and reading in 2013, Maryland students outperformed the national average. By 2022, we had fallen below the national average in math, and we're tied in reading.
It's frustrating to see that students are struggling in the classroom while the unions are getting richer.
Project Baltimore, starting last week, has sent multiple emails to various high-ranking union officials, including President Cheryl Boast, asking for information about how the union spends its money to benefit students. To date, we have not received any reply.
They should be transparent. There should be oversight, especially considering that they are raising money from teachers.
Our investigation into MSEA is not over. We believe taxpayers deserve answers. The teachers union is tax exempt so that it has more money to fulfill its mission of improving public education. But is MSEA doing that? We will stay on this story. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
All right, thanks, Chris. Let's get on over to meteorologist Jasmine Lomax to see what's in store for us this Sunday. I mean, the temperatures are already going up, Jasmine.
Slowly, but they're on their way to the 50s, the 60s. It's a slow start, a very cold start to the day, and you will want the layers as you step outside, but beautiful. We're waking up to plenty of sunshine right now over Baltimore, and temperatures around 44. Feels a little bit cooler across many portions of the state, but we are nice and dry, and we're going to stay that way over the next couple days. We have high pressure to our west. That will keep us dry, and it'll mean plenty of sunshine today. However, we do have a weather maker coming later on. Right now, we're seeing temperatures in the state in the 30s and in the 40s. Take away a few degrees, it feels much cooler when we talk about the wind chill. And compared to this time yesterday, for some of us, we're seeing temperatures over 20 degrees lower than they were just this time 24 hours ago. So certainly a chilly start to the morning, but we have that warm up for the afternoon. So as you take a look around our state, we're staying nice and dry. There is the chance for a few showers and possibly a few snow showers in New England if you're traveling there. As we continue into Monday, looks good as we start for traveling around the region. We'll wake up to plenty of sunshine before more clouds arrive by the afternoon. The chance for a few showers west, That rain will not reach us. However, a weather maker will follow, and that's one that could lead to impacts for traveling plans. We're looking at the chance for rain, possibly some freezing rain for far western Maryland. That's not going to reach our area. We are, however, talking showers, and at times there could be heavy rain, possibly some snow toward Pennsylvania and parts of New York and into New England. This rain continues into the night before tapering Wednesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, we're talking cloudy skies but dry weather. As we take a look, we've got the best chance for rain once we get to Tuesday. That rain continues overnight and then possibly scattered showers for Wednesday morning, but we'll return to a nice and dry pattern right in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. We'll stay mostly dry on Saturday. Temperatures this afternoon reach 60. We are in for a beautiful day. Then tomorrow we're looking at 50, a big drop in the numbers. 54 with rain on Tuesday, 58 on Wednesday, then cooler for Thanksgiving, 53, 54 on Black Friday, and then 54 once again on Saturday. Back to you.
All right, residents of one Baltimore neighborhood questioning the city's bike lanes, why they say the usage does not make up for that inconvenience. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. Here we go. All right, turning now to the latest developments coming out of Gaza. New video shows dozens of bodies found after a blast hit a United Nations school that was being used as a shelter in northern Gaza. A UN agency confirmed the school was hit, but declined to provide more details. It comes as patients and staff continue to evacuate from Gaza's largest hospital, with only a handful of doctors staying behind to care for those who are too vulnerable to leave. This morning, there are still competing claims on whether the staff was ordered to leave by the Israeli military and whether or not Hamas has been using the hospital as a command center. Now, Israeli forces discovered the bodies of 2 hostages near that hospital, 65-year-old grandmother and mother of 5, and a 19-year-old soldier who Hamas claimed was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Both were taken into Gaza during the October 7th massacre.
They don't see them as hostages. They see them as something. I don't know not as human beings. And this is so shameful.
As Israeli troops continue to push deeper into Gaza, internet, telephone networks, they are all down amid a potential long-term blackout. It's forcing aid groups to pause border crossing deliveries, which is now prompting fears of an even bigger humanitarian crisis. Times Square in New York has put up this billboard. It shows the support for Israeli hostages still being held by Hamas. This billboard shows Emily Hand, a young woman who was taken hostage during the initial October 7th attack in Israel. Emily has both Irish and Israeli citizenship, according to the Irish embassy in Israel. She just turned 9 years old on Friday. Emily's family attended the billboard's unveiling. Her father, Thomas, says he's holding on to hope that she will come home safely.
We were hoping that she would be back by now. That would have been our prayers answered, but she's not. She's still down in the tunnels. So now we have to hope that she'll be back for Christmas.
Hamas took roughly 240 people hostage during the initial attack. Maryland State Comptroller Brooke Learman announced that individuals and businesses that are affected by the conflict in the Middle East can receive a tax benefit. Taxpayers who've been affected can request to waive penalties and interest if they cannot file the returns or make timely payments for personal income tax, pass-through, entity tax, and fiduciary income tax. The deadline has now been extended to October of next year.
Is momentum growing for more third-party candidates in the race for the White House? I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with new poll numbers and what they mean for 2024.
And we're looking ahead to some sunny skies with above-average temperatures. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax tracking how your holiday forecast is shaping up. Stick with us here at Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. We're taking you live to Ocean City, Maryland this morning. Isn't that a gorgeous shot? Yeah, it's a little cold though. Thanks for being with us this Sunday, November 19th. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's jump into your forecast because meteorologist Jasmine Lomas will tell you it looks gorgeous, but probably doesn't feel so great on the beach right now.
No, it is so cold, especially to be at the beach. But it's not just us dealing with the cold weather. The cold air has arrived before Thanksgiving for many parts of the country. Notice all of the areas in blue dealing with those cooler temperatures. Of course, Florida has those higher numbers, but for the rest of us, we're waking up this morning to the 20s, 30s, and the 40s. And a closer look around the state shows temperatures are mainly in the 30s and 40s here as well, but take away a few degrees, it feels even cooler when we talk about the wind chill. Now we are getting ready for a pretty nice warm up. We're talking temperatures close to average. For us, that means about 60 degrees. However, this will likely be the highest temperature of the week. I'll let you know how it looks as we get close to Thanksgiving and what it looks like for travel in my Weather Authority forecast. Taylor?
This morning, officials are investigating a fire and explosion in southwest Baltimore that was supposedly caused by a natural gas and power line leak. Fire officials were sent to a building right near the Horseshoe Casino for a report of an explosion yesterday. Officials say when they got there, they saw a fire coming from the sidewalk and then flames hanging over a power line as well. The explosion happened in a residential area. No injuries were reported, but officials are still investigating what exactly caused this.
How many bikes have you seen?
I haven't seen a bike around here since I've been around here. Not one.
In 3 years?
3 years.
Baltimore neighborhoods growing more frustrated with bike lanes. Now, residents argue the lanes are hardly getting any use and are holding up surrounding traffic. We take a closer look at their frustration and if the city can even afford to add the bike lanes they've planned.
I haven't seen a bike around here since I've been around here. Not one. 3 years.
In northeast Baltimore, this stretch of Harford Road, once 4 lanes, now down to just 2, as traffic lanes turn into bike lanes.
Baltimore laid this out in 2017, and they said that they wanted to spend $27 million for 77 miles of bike lanes.
But to date, that project over budget and behind schedule.
There's about 17 miles of bike lanes, which equates to about $1.5 million.
Yet already the impact on congestion.
Treacherous.
As taxpayers foot the bill for their own headache.
These costs add up and they take away from other transportation priorities in the city.
Taxpayer advocate David Williams questions whether Baltimore City truly has the funds to spare.
We just found out earlier this week that Baltimore has a deficit of $100 million next year.
As of now, no plan to pause or reconsider the project, so expect more traffic lanes will vanish into bike lanes.
And the way they're going to do it is by narrowing every street that they can, even though it has a negative impact, economic impact on the cities.
If a community doesn't want them, don't build them.
Williams says it's time to get vocal about the impact it's having in your neighborhood.
Call your city council member. Just a few people calling a city council member can get things done, and and that's what representative democracy is all about, is calling your elected officials. So I think there are ways of addressing this.
All right, take a look at this. Baltimore police seized 15 illegal dirt bikes and ATVs from a Northwest Baltimore business. Police shared these photos from the Park Heights Avenue, and it's the same location where 33 dirt bikes were confiscated back in June. BPD says 169 illegal dirt bikes have been seized across the city this year. Many of those bikes now sitting at an impound lot out on Pulaski Highway. Meanwhile, residents are growing frustrated with the bikes disrupting drivers and neighborhoods. Take a look.
It's a nightmare.
There's bigger problems that they seem to worry about, and I get that. It's just annoying. It's drives us crazy.
I would call for a day of accountability. I'd bring those bikes together, bring a bulldozer, I would crush every one of them, and then pile all the confiscated guns and crush them as well. A day of accountability for those dirt bikes and for guns.
Spokesperson says if a dirt bike is stolen, it's returned to its owner. But if the bike or ATV was used on the streets illegally, it's up to the city solicitor to determine if it's ever returned to that owner. Well, the 2024 presidential field may be far from set. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin says he may run for president as an independent. Manchin says both parties have gone too far to the left and then too far to the right. And as chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us, plenty of voters seem to agree.
For those assuming 2024 will turn out as this two-man race, an alarming number of Americans are saying not so fast, including West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, who's floating the idea of a third-party run, citing concerns about both Donald Trump.
The country would be in a horrible situation, challenging our democracy if he got reelected.
And President Biden.
He's not the person we thought that was getting elected, being a centrist and moderate. He's been pushed so far to the left.
He's not alone. A new Quinnipiac poll shows more than 7 in 10 independent voters want someone else in the race, and almost 6 in 10 Democrats. But only about 3 in 10 Republicans feel that way. A majority of them say they're satisfied with the current field.
It's significant that at this point, this many people are on the fence. I mean, this is a time where we've got 2 older gentlemen running for president who are not terribly popular. And so people are looking for something else.
Prompting scenes like this, reporters peppering Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson while on the Hill Wednesday.
Mr. Johnson, are you running for president?
But more serious consideration is being granted elsewhere, and nobody seeing it more than Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Kennedy is a force in the universe in this all of a sudden. I'll let you draw the conclusion why, but we also found that people who have least belief in government have the most belief in Kennedy.
And he, a skeptic of the election system, which he likened to the former Soviet Union.
The Communist Party was claiming that they had a democracy. But the way they controlled the democracy is the party alone could designate who the nominees were.
Pollsters tell me it's young voters who are most disheartened and looking for a fresh horse who, even if that candidate doesn't win, could still dramatically alter the race. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Well, former President Donald Trump returned to Iowa just 8 weeks before the January 15th Iowa Republican caucuses. Trump's team says they're heading into this final stretch feeling confident with his place in the polls. A recent NBC poll found that 43% of likely Republican caucus voters plan on picking Trump for their first choice, with his closest rivals polling at just 16%. Trump celebrated a victory for his campaign in Colorado after a judge dismissed an effort to keep him off the state's ballot next year.
Last night, our campaign won a gigantic court victory in Colorado, but it was an outrageous attempt at disenfranchising millions and millions of voters by getting us thrown off the ballot. And the judge in the end said, we can't do that. So, you know, they can't do that. If they did that, I think it would have been very difficult for our country.
Well, 3 Republican presidential candidates, including South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, appeared at a popular and evangelical Christian forum in Iowa. Trump decided to skip that event. You've probably heard of coffee-flavored ice cream, but what about waffle-flavored coffee? More on this new morning brew and how you can get it.
And if you plan on traveling around Maryland, you have the yellow light for Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning as we get ready for rain. I'll break down the timing coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
In your consumer news this morning, your grocery bill may be looking a little bit lighter for the holidays. The latest data from the Department of Labor shows prices on staples such as bacon, seafood, and eggs, finally, have fallen significantly. Walmart CEO Doug McMillon says the food industry may be heading into a period of deflation. This is some good news for consumers, as 3 years of price hikes increased grocery bills by around 25% from the start of the pandemic. McMillan says consumers should expect a steady drop in the coming weeks. Ooh, that sounds good. You'll soon be able to purchase a car on Amazon. That's right. The commerce giant is adding Hyundai cars and SUVs to its huge list of online items. Unfortunately, though, the car won't be delivered to your home. You'll need to pick it up at a local dealership. The program does not apply to all Hyundai locations, so you'll have to pick the closest one participating when you go get your vehicle. If you like having waffles with your coffee, well, maybe you considered having waffles in your coffee. Well, Coffee Mate and Eggo are teaming up to make a waffles and maple syrup flavored creamer. It supposedly adds a rich syrup and buttery taste to your morning brew. And this new caffeinated concoction will set you back about $5 and will be available by January for limited time. Some retired firefighters coming together to cook up a breakfast and give back to the community. How a group of old farts, yes, that's right, they got together. We'll tell you more about it just ahead. Unveiling the path of skills and success. Still ahead, discover how a local Maryland group is transcending industries beyond construction. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News Weekend Edition. All local, all morning. All right, we've got a little bright spot for you this morning. Retired firefighters and some current members came together to help benefit the community. It was part of a lunch called the Old Farts Luncheon and Toy Drive. Yeah, you heard that right. The Old Farts got together to actually have breakfast, not lunch, while bringing toys to be collected for Toys for Tots. Now, members tell Fox 45 News that a certain someone, you may know him as St. Nick or Chris King Kringle, stopped by to join in on the festivities.
Santa was here, so Santa helped us usher the toys off for Toys for Tots. So it was a pretty big deal today for us.
Now, firefighters tell us it is one of their favorite traditions and that it gives them a chance to hear stories and learn from other members of their own crew. All right, also trending this morning, the long-standing battle over iPhone's blue and Android's green text bubbles is soon taking a friendlier approach, okay? So Apple announced plans to adopt a messaging standard that will finally bring iMessage features to Android users. The change will add features such as read receipts, typing indicators, and better support for group chats, as well as higher quality media sharing for videos and pictures across platforms. Hidden Valley Ranch is doubling down on its classic flavor. The company announces a new collaboration with itself to make an X-shaped double bottle of ranch. What? Hidden Valley says it comes with double herbs, spices, flavor, and of course, double the bottles. The new limited edition ranch bottle is available right now. I just don't know if I need both bottles. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax, I don't know. Let's move on to the weather here. So we're moving on up today.
A little bit, yes. We're getting there. Okay. It's not going to be as windy as it was yesterday, and that will make such a difference. So a great end to the weekend. However, you can get ready for cooler temperatures as we move forward and get closer to the Thanksgiving holiday. 44 this morning over Baltimore and very chilly here and around the state. Now we are nice and dry, and that's thanks to high pressure. That's to our west, and it will remain in place today. We'll stay nice and dry, and once again tomorrow, staying dry before the next weather maker. We're starting with temperatures in the 30s and the 40s around the state, seeing plenty of sunshine, nice and quiet and clear all around, but again, it is very cold. Compared to this time yesterday, we're seeing areas over 20 degrees lower. So as you step outside, you will want the layers as we deal with very chilly start to the morning. Notice on the future scan this afternoon, it looks great for our state. If you will be traveling, we're looking at more clouds, a few showers, and possibly some snow showers for parts of New England. Then as we make our way into Monday morning, starting off nice and dry, it looks good for travel, but you can already start to see that green toward the end of the screen. There's the chance for a few spotty showers. That rain doesn't reach us. We'll stay dry once again tomorrow, but it's Tuesday when we're talking an impact to the region as we get ready for the next weather maker. Some could be looking at freezing rain that could impact far western Maryland around Garrett County. However, most of us will be dealing with rain by the afternoon. The chance for a few areas of snow north, but again, most of us dealing with rain, and at times that rain could be heavy. It'll continue overnight and into the first part of Wednesday. By Wednesday afternoon, mostly dry around the region, but still talking wet roads. If you'll be driving, make sure that you are driving safely. After Tuesday and Wednesday, we're back to dry weather right in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and we'll stay mostly dry on Saturday. 60 for the high this afternoon with plenty of sunshine. It'll be a nice and quiet day, a good day to maybe rake the leaves. Tomorrow, though, we're talking a drop in temperatures, 50 for the high, then 54 on Tuesday with rain, 58 on Wednesday behind the rain. Thanksgiving will be cooler than average, 53, 54 for Black Friday, and once again on Saturday. Taylor?
An electric atmosphere in College Park as Maryland welcomed an undefeated third-ranked Michigan in town. And how the Terps pulled off this offset, that's just ahead and next in Sports Unlimited.
Welcome into your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Maryland didn't back down or get blown out. Instead, the Terps battled against an undefeated third-ranked Michigan team that could very well be playing for a national championship when it's all said and done. While Michael Locksley isn't one for moral victories, the Terps came closer than any team has to beating Michigan this season. College Park was rocking for this one, in Michigan quickly silenced the crowd. Former St. Francis Academy standout Blake Corum in the end zone. His first score of the game, 7-3 Wolverines. Second quarter, Michigan with a commanding lead. It's Corum finding pay dirt again. Wolverines led 23-10 at the half. But this was a different-looking Maryland team coming out of the locker room for the third. Billy Edwards Jr. from a yard out, he's in for 6. And just like that, it's a 6-point game. After a Michigan punt, Terps back on 0. Talia Tungavailoa back to pass. Picked off by Mike Sainristil. One of Talia's 2 interceptions on the day. Michigan takes over on offense. And the Wolverines would capitalize. Samaj Morgan in for 6. 29-17 Wolverines. Terps back on the goal line. Edwards Jr. with one of the craziest stat lines of the year. 4 carries, 3 yards, 3 touchdowns. Terps cut it to 5, but less than 5 minutes to go. Terps with the ball, down 5, needing a touchdown. Tungavailoa called for intentional grounding on this play since the foul occurred in the end zone. It's ruled a safety. You be the judge. Michigan escapes College Park with a 31-24 win. Coach Locksley, the floor is yours.
You know, going in at the halftime, we knew that coming out and scoring early, getting a 3 and out to get us back in the game, and we're able to do it. When you play a champion like Michigan, you got to understand they won't give it to you. And our guys need to continue to understand that we're going to have to go take it, whether it's against them and the crowd. You know, they had a great crowd show up here for us, but you know what? There are no moral victories, but this is definitely one of those games that I feel as a program that we'll be able to build off of.
Navy was just suffocating, holding the Pirates to 34 yards rushing and forcing 4 turnovers as Navy picks up their 5th win of the season in a 10-0 shutout.
Really proud of our guys. I think we've won 4 out of the last 6, and they haven't all been pretty, but you know, we found a way to get a W, and just really proud of our football team today. And yeah, it was a great win. You know, it wasn't pretty, but it was a win. It's hard to win football games. You know, we're still banged up on offense, but we found a way, so proud of our guys.
Senior day for Towson football. Tigers looking for a win over Rhode Island in their season finale. And how about a 70-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown to get the scoring started? Tylan Wallace, check out the big man, rumbling in for 6. But Rhode Island took the lead in the second and held it until late in the 4th. Less than a minute to go. Tigers down 5. Christopher Watkins plays hero as the Tigers win in the season finale. 31-30, the final score.
I think at the beginning of the year, Rhode Island was considered, you know, one of the top 3 teams in our conference, and so I think they're 8 points away from, you know, being a pretty good football team, and to go toe to toe with them and end this way, feel great about it. And then I think, you know, you look at how we played against some of the other playoff teams, and you're like, okay, we got a chance here.
MEAC title on the line as Morgan State took on Howard. Bears ended the game on a 3-game win streak. Bison led 7-0 at the half. Third quarter, Quentin Williams breaks off a 34-yard run to give Howard a 2-score lead. Morgan State looking for its first points of the game here. Taj Smith hits Travion Pratt, and that'll go for 6, but it's Howard getting the win in this one, 14-7. Morgan State finishes the year with a 4-6 record. Johns Hopkins football capped off a dominant regular season with a perfect 10-0 record. With that, the Blue Jays punched their ticket to the D3 playoffs, where the road only gets tougher. Hopkins hosting Western Connecticut State, and this was a back-and-forth battle in the first half. That until the Blue Jays took control, scoring 34 unanswered. Bay Harvey dialing up Burt Griffin, making a few defenders miss, en route for a 55-yard touchdown later in the third. Harvey connecting with Josh Pulse for 6. Harvey 252 yards passing, 5 total touchdowns as Johns Hopkins wins 62-20. The Blue Jays will face Union in the second round next Saturday. Stevenson and Ursinus squaring off in the Max Centennial Bowl. Mustangs down 11 when Tyler Blake finds Nair Wilson. Extra point makes this a 4-point game, but Ursinus would pull away in the third on this play right here. 55-yard touchdown as Stevenson falls in this one, 31-13. The Ravens continued their ascension atop the AFC North with a big Thursday night win over the Bengals. After blowing a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter last Sunday against the Browns, Baltimore bounced back and got the job done with a 34-20 victory.
That's like Super Bowl strength in terms of mentality. So, you know, we knew that we let one slip, and we weren't gonna let that. We weren't gonna let that happen again. So I give kudos to Rowe, the leaders of the defense, and the leaders of the offense as well for getting the guys ready, prepared. And we at the fourth quarter, when we went into halftime, we knew what we had to do. We couldn't let it slip away. We had to stay focused. I appreciate the guys for staying locked in. You know, it's just a team that we always want to try to beat. Obviously, coming back from a loss too. So that's why you saw the type of energy that we brought, and I'm proud of the guys.
That's your morning sports report. I'm Rocco DeSangro. Have a great Sunday.
Well, it is official. Mayor Brandon Scott is running for another term in office. Coming up, we take a look at his announcement and who's backing him in the race for mayor. Meantime, the Department of Juvenile Services facing backlash from city leaders. Why they say residents cannot wait any longer for change.
And this morning, we're waking up to sunny skies and cold temperatures. I'll let you know how warm it gets for the afternoon coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. 8 o'clock here, looking live over Towson. And look at all that fall foliage. Thanks for being with us this November 19th. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's jump into your forecast. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with what we're working with on this glorious Sunday.
Good morning, Taylor. Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful outside. You mentioned that fall foliage. Still a good day to go and see the beautiful colors because we are getting closer and closer to the peak. And that's just a sign that cooler temperatures are on the way. And you'll notice that later this week. 41 as we start the morning with sunny skies over Towson. It only feels like it's 37, so we are seeing a wind chill. You will notice that it feels a little bit cooler than actual temperatures. Across the state, we have the 30s and the 40s, but we are starting off with plenty of sunshine, and we're setting up for a beautiful day this afternoon as our temperatures reach the low 60s. We'll be in the low 50s tomorrow, and then after that, our next weather maker on Tuesday, rain and the mid-50s. I'll let you know the timing of the rain and impacts to travel plans in my Weather Authority forecast. Taylor?
We cannot turn back. and that's why I am running for re-election to continue to be the mayor of Baltimore City. Get a yard sign, and then most of all, spread the word. Get your friends, neighbors, and in the words of my mentor, our forever Congressman Elijah Cummings, get Lottie, Dottie, and everybody to join our movement, because Baltimore, our renaissance is here, our future is now. We will move our city forward, not backwards.
Well, you heard it, a big announcement coming from Mayor Brandon Scott. The mayor announcing to a packed auditorium he is running for re-election in 2024. Scott touting his accomplishments in the past 3 years as he promises to push Baltimore forward. Scott was joined by community leaders and several lawmakers, including Senator Corey McCray and Councilman James Torrance, who say Scott needs more time to finish what he started when it comes to fully realizing Baltimore's renaissance.
Brandon Scott. Brandon understands from his own experience about the critical importance of being there for our kids.
Because he's not just leading, but he's leading for our generation, George. When I think about every grandmother, every mother, every auntie, every uncle can see their self, can see their son, can see their nephew, can see their grandson in Brandon Scott.
He has programs that go back into the institutions. He has programs that make sure that we have the resources that we need. And he's working hard to make sure that our community allows us to come back home and be resourceful, be a benefit to our community.
Now, despite some of the praise, the Scott administration has dealt with a number of issues in the last 3 years, including turnover in some key positions. That includes his former chief of staff, the former MONSE director, Shante Jackson, and the former Department of Public Works head, Jason Mitchell. We also saw the exit of the city's fire and police departments in this last year. The turnover is leading to concerns of instability within City Hall. And the mayor has also failed to meet some campaign promises when it comes to public safety. As his opponent, Sheila Dixon, points out, when Scott was elected, he promised to reduce homicides by 15% each year of his term, to drop homicides also under 300 in his first year. But Baltimore is on track to meet that goal, but it did take 3 years to make that happen.
The promise certainly has not been fulfilled. Murders have gone up every year except this year. So you've had a tremendous uptick in violence in the city, which is exactly the opposite of what he promised.
We questioned Mayor Scott on why he feels he should take the credit for the drop in homicides. And the mayor has doubled down on his claims, but FOX45 is looking into a number of changes that could be contributing to that decline. Vincent Hill explains.
FOX45 pressing Mayor Scott on why he feels he's responsible for a reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings.
Why do you take credit for that?
Because we put in the effort, right?
Efforts, he says, like MONSE and Safe Streets.
It's important for Baltimore to note 20% reduction, which is double the national average.
But looking at the data, a significant drop in those crimes happened when U.S. Attorney Eric Barron made this announcement, with Mayor Scott in the background.
This Al Capone model of prosecution is designed to take violent people off the streets by any appropriate legal means necessary.
And when City State's Attorney Ivan Bates was sworn into office, a much tougher on crime prosecutor than Marilyn Mosby, who Mayor Scott once shared the stage with.
Now this mayor, Mayor Scott, the commissioner, and I.
Since Barron and Bates took office, homicides are down 20%, and non-fatal shootings 9%.
Some data shows that when Ivan Bates and Eric Barron took office, we began to see
I think that's false data.
The mayor doubling down, saying he's the one responsible for a safer Baltimore.
I love them both dearly. Their cases are made by police officers that work for Brandon Scott, the mayor of Baltimore City. We direct. The arrests are done by us. All the enforcement is done by us.
Political analyst John Deedy calling those comments political.
The mayor, smart politically, will take credit for this stuff because when you're running for re-election and numbers are going down, you want to hang a star on it.
And pointing to the problems the mayor's claims are based on.
But the problem is it gets mitigated by the fact that now you have the feds looking into the Safe Streets location and maybe looking into other things.
Well, during the campaign event, the mayor touting the Safe Streets program as a cornerstone of his crime-fighting plan. FOX45 News has spent the week pressing him about the program, and time again, we've tried to get answers about the FBI raid at least one location last month and the number of homes of employees who work with the program. We also know now one employee is facing state charges. Sources say it could be over alleged gang ties.
What do you say to taxpayers who are concerned about the possible link between this street gang in Baltimore and this program funded by the government that's supposed to prevent violence from happening?
What I'll say, Mackenzie, what I always say, no matter who it is, right? If they're doing that kind of activity, whether they're a police officer, whether they're a DPW worker, whether they work at the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, anybody, any individual that has those kind of ties will be dealt with through law enforcement. I don't care if it's Mackenzie Frost, whoever it is. If they're in the streets of Baltimore and they're doing things with BGF or any other organized person, if we find out, we will do what we do all the time. If you're involved in illegal activity, it can be my mother. She'll be treated the same way.
Now, for years, Fox 45 News has been fighting for details on the Safe Streets program, demanding answers from city leaders on who's hired and what those workers do on a daily basis, as well as how the money given to Safe Streets is spent. A taxpayer watchdog says the lack of transparency in the program is alarming, especially with the new developments in the FBI investigation.
Fox 45 filed your Sunshine Open Records request asking for the payroll names of the violence interrupters that work for the Safe Streets program. Those names were redacted from the payroll information. Now you have the city's top charities running this program. You got Catholic Charities running this. You got LifeBridge running this. And look, they were not transparent with who works in those positions. And now you've done a great job of, over the course of the last 10 to 12 years, exposing gang infiltration on the violence interrupter payroll.
Fox 45 News will continue to press city leaders for answers on the Safe Streets program and the spending, as well as bring you the latest on that FBI investigation as we learn more. Well, look here. OpenAI says it fired its CEO following an internal investigation. Why experts claim this could change the AI industry as we know it.
And we're waking up to cold but dry conditions around the region. It's a good day for travel, but later this week, the chance for rain. I'll break down the timing and impacts to Thanksgiving coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
In your Consumer Reports, OpenAI, the company behind the viral ChatGPT website, has fired its CEO and founder, Sam Altman. The company said in a statement an internal investigation found Altman was not always truthful with the board. OpenAI's chief technology officer will now serve as the interim CEO until a permanent successor is chosen. News of Altman's firing comes just after he served as the master of ceremonies at OpenAI's first developer conference in San Francisco last week. Experts say his departure has created uncertainty for what the industry's future holds.
Look, I think ultimately what ends up happening is that you start to have founders and CEOs that are bigger than the board, bigger than the company. And that's really what played out here in terms of with Altman, that became the face of AI globally. And I think that's from the view of the White House to Wall Street to Silicon Valley. And there's right now going to be a lot of ramifications from this, I think, for months and years to come.
Now, ChatGPT, which currently has 100 million active users, launched late last year. It's what made Altman an overnight celebrity in the AI world. Inflation is pushing up the cost of basic needs like food and rent, but also the price to have fun. The National Desk's Angela Brown explains.
What's the connection between the Beehive, Swifties, and the GDP?
I think that memories are worth more than money.
You guessed it, money spent on concerts and a quirky play on words called funflation. MarketWatch defines it as the recent boom in consumer spending on entertainment and experiences, with a high demand running up the cost of enjoying those experiences. Ted Rossman, Bankrate.
This summer was actually busier for travel than last summer. It was a huge summer for concerts. Sports attendance is way up. People have cut back on physical goods spending, but they're really prioritizing the experience.
Funflation comes with a price. The CEO of Best Buy blamed slipping sales on shoppers splurging on experiences rather than a TV, something we heard from Swifties going to the Taylor Swift concert.
I just think that these moments are going to live on in my mind and with my friends forever.
The GDP grew by 4.9% in the third quarter. Consumer spending helped to push up the GDP. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
What a better way to take down a trip on memory lane than getting together with some old farts. Still ahead, some retired firefighters that came together to give back to the community.
I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington. Coming up, how a viral social media hashtag led to renewed calls of banning TikTok in America.
Making headlines this morning, we're seeing more and more young people get their information about the war in Israel from social media sites, especially TikTok. Most recently, a trend celebrating Osama bin Laden prompted a stern response from the White House. National correspondent Haley Gaskins has more from Washington.
TikTok once again under fire after Osama bin Laden's letter to America went viral.
I need you to stop what you're doing and go read A Letter to America.
The way this letter is going viral right now is giving me the greatest sense of relief.
Gen Z Americans praising the 2002 letter in which bin Laden lays out his justification for killing 3,000 Americans on 9/11.
This letter is so well written and so reasonably structured. Like, everything he said was valid.
TikTok quickly removed the posts and hashtags fueling their spread, but that didn't stop renewed calls for a ban of the Chinese-owned app. Representative Mike Gallagher weighing in.
These people are, of course, massive idiots. It's absolutely disgusting and further evidence that we need to ban TikTok.
GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley also calling for a TikTok ban, writing, "Stop giving the Chinese Communist Party the ability to influence Americans." The social media company responding directly to Haley's accusations, writing, "Content promoting this letter clearly violates our rules on supporting any form of terrorism." Bin Laden's writings resurfacing amid online discussions about the Israel-Hamas war. New polling by Intelligent.com finding 86% of college students say they learn about the war from social media. 1/3 of students admitted they don't fact-check information on these issues. Regardless, Gen Z users say the content they're exposed to online has a real impact on their views.
I just read A Letter to America, and I will never look at life the same. I will never look at this country the same.
The Biden administration quickly condemned the pro-bin Laden TikToks, but as some called to ban the app, Biden's re-election campaign is reportedly considering joining it to connect with young voters ahead of 2024. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
It's been a pretty nice start to the morning. You're waking up to sunny skies, but cold temperatures. 45 currently over Baltimore with winds out of the west-southwest, light at this time, but around the state we're seeing some cooler numbers. We're mainly seeing the 30s and the low 40s. It's nice and sunny around the state, and compared to this time yesterday, you'll notice that it feels much cooler. We're seeing some areas over 10, 15, even 20 degrees cooler than this time yesterday. So this morning you will want to grab the layers as you step outside. Now we're dry and quiet thanks to high pressure, keeping us that way. We'll have that high pressure system remain in place today, and we'll stay nice and dry. We'll have plenty of sunshine, a few clouds to the north, and possibly some rain and even snow showers for New England. If you'll be traveling today, keep that in mind. Otherwise, much of the region stays dry and quiet. Then we'll wake up to sunny skies tomorrow morning. However, we will have a few more clouds moving in for the afternoon. And for much of the region, we stay dry, but that comes to an end on Tuesday. That's when we have the next weather maker. It could lead to a wintry mix for some, especially west. But for the Baltimore area, we're mainly talking rain, and at times there could be heavy rain. Notice north, there is the chance for a few areas of snow and possibly a wintry mix, so that's mainly Pennsylvania and into New York. Keep this in mind if you'll be traveling on Tuesday. Rain continues overnight and into the first part of Wednesday, but we dry out by the afternoon here and around most of the region. After Wednesday, we're back to dry weather for Thursday and Friday, and we'll stay mostly dry on Saturday. 60 for the high this afternoon with nice and sunny skies. Temperatures just above average for this time of year, but we have a big drop coming tomorrow. 50 for the high, then 54 on Tuesday with rain. 58 with more rain for the morning on Wednesday. Thanksgiving looks great, 53. 54 for Black Friday, and then 54 once again for Saturday. We'll be right back.
Turning now to the latest developments coming out of Gaza. New video shows dozens of bodies found after a blast hit a United Nations school that was being used as a shelter in northern Gaza. A UN agency confirms the school was hit, but declined to provide more details. It comes as patients and staff continue to evacuate from Gaza's largest hospital, with only a handful of doctors staying behind to care for those too vulnerable to leave. This morning, there are still competing claims on whether the staff was ordered to leave by the Israeli military and whether or not Hamas has been using that hospital as a command center. Israeli forces recovered the bodies of 2 hostages near the Al-Shifa hospital, 65-year-old grandmother and mother of 5, and a 19-year-old soldier who Hamas claimed was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Both were taken into Gaza during that October 7th massacre.
They don't see them as hostages. They see them as something. I don't know what not as human beings. And it's just so shameful.
As Israeli troops continue to push deeper into the Strip, internet and telephone services are all down. This is amid a potential long-term blackout. It's forcing aid groups to pause crossing the border for deliveries, which is prompting fears of an even bigger humanitarian crisis. Times Square in New York City put up this billboard that shows support for Israeli hostages being held by Hamas. This billboard shows Emily Hand, a young girl who was taken hostage during the initial October 7th attack in Israel. Emily has both Irish and Israeli citizenship, according to the Irish embassy in Israel. She just turned 9 years old on Friday, and her family attended the billboard's unveiling. Her father, Thomas, saying he's holding on to hope she'll be able to come home safely.
We were hoping that she would be back by now. That would have been our prayers answered. But she's not. She's still down in the tunnels. So now we have to hope that she'll be back for Christmas.
Now, Hamas took roughly 240 people hostage during the initial attack. Maryland State Comptroller Brooke Learman announced that individuals and businesses that are impacted by the conflict in the Middle East can receive tax relief. Taxpayers who've been affected can request to waive penalties and interest if they cannot file their returns or make timely payments for personal income tax, pass-through, entity tax, and fiduciary income tax. The deadline has now been extended to October of next year. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at today's Steals and Deals.
The following segment is sponsored by Knocking.
I am so excited to tell you about this product. I love it after wearing high heels all day or a heavy workout at the gym. Footopia. This combines pushing, kneading, shiatsu, pressing, rubbing techniques that feel so good. It also has heat therapy that helps to loosen your muscles, and it also feels cozy as we get into these colder months of the year. And it can also be used on your calves as well, which is great because I get cramps in my calves. I also love it's light and it's portable. You just simply plug it in and you're good to go anywhere, vacation, the office. It's also great for everybody. It's a great gift, whether you're an athlete or you're having a physically demanding day at work, or you just want to, like me, relax after a stressful day and just sit in front of the TV. I like that it's really good for anybody. It's good for young people. It's good for older people. And also, I have cold feet. So this warms my feet and massages my feet at the same time, which is actually something I've never found in a product like this. And right now, we're offering 33% off. Get that. That's a big deal on Footopia. All you have to do is head to asadeals.com for this amazing, look at this, relaxing, exclusive offer.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 Morning News.
Good morning to you. Thanks for being with us this Sunday, November 19th. I'm Taylor Stewart. Let's go ahead and jump into your forecast with meteorologist Jasmine Lomax. Good morning, Jazz. It's cold out there.
Good morning, Taylor. It is just so cold, 30s and 40s as we start, but at least we're waking up to sunny skies, so that helps a little bit, but chilly across the entire state, especially compared to this time yesterday. Now we're dry today and tomorrow, and we're actually looking at a very dry pattern across much of our region. Some areas in a moderate drought, even severe and extreme levels for parts of Virginia. That's where we had those wildfires, but we'll be getting some relief this week. And it's all as we get ready for the next weather maker. High pressure stays in control today, but later this week, we've got a cold front on the way. You can already see some showers associated with that system. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at the timing of the rain and how it could impact your Thanksgiving travel in my full forecast. Back to you.
This morning, officials are investigating a fire and explosion in southwest Baltimore that was supposedly caused by a natural gas and power line leak. City fire units were sent to a building right near Horseshoe Casino following reports of an explosion on Saturday. Officials say when they got there, they saw fire coming from the sidewalk as well as flames overhanging on a power line. The explosion happened in a residential area. No injuries to report here, but officials are still investigating what exactly caused this. Councilman Costello has been vocal about holding young offenders accountable. During a recent hearing on car thefts, he questioned the Department of Juvenile Services about their intake process, but his deadline for an answer has come and gone. Vincent Hill has more on the juvenile crime crisis.
At City Hall, questions about DJS's intake process by Councilman Eric Costello.
This informal process with DJS, intake officers not being on site at the Juvenile Justice Center, is creating greater harm in the city.
Intake officers working remotely, forcing Baltimore police to make a phone call on whether or not to bring a juvenile in.
There's no opportunity to appeal an intake officer's decision not to detain a juvenile who has committed a very serious or violent offense.
Deputy Secretary Lisa Gary.
And that is something that will be changing.
Promising change and a memo confirming that change to the City Council.
That is effective November the 15th.
A day later.
It's always disappointing when someone doesn't follow up.
No memo and more disappointment in DJS.
Because at the end of the day, if people don't feel safe in the communities they live, work, and play, that's the most important thing.
Meanwhile, questions about how long city residents can wait for change.
4 number 1 male juveniles between 13 and 16.
After a rash of robberies in Federal Hill.
It's groups of kids, they come up in a car and there's 4 or 5 of them jump out, and your neighbors can't really help.
This woman's neighbor robbed Tuesday night. About a mile away shortly after midnight.
And 36, we got 2 victims at this location here. 2 separate robberies.
Cars pulled up. There was a gun.
2 of this resident's neighbors robbed by masked suspects, leaving him with the word we've heard time and time again.
Without any accountability, how do you shape it? How do you stop it?
For Councilman Costello.
Just hopeful that they're going to follow through on the commitment they made.
That accountability starts with DJS keeping their word on changing their intake process.
That was Vincent Hill reporting there. Now, we reached out to Deputy Secretary Lisa Gary to see if those changes have taken effect, but we've yet to hear back. Now, from a second hearing with state lawmakers to questions from the Baltimore City Council, in the last month, the Department of Juvenile Services has faced its fair share of scrutiny about how it handles young offenders. Joining us live to weigh in on what we've learned, let's welcome law enforcement expert Dr. Tyrone Powers. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in with what we learned this past week about the intake process. It appears there's a deep disconnect between the moment a juvenile is brought into custody and then how the department decides whether or not to detain or release that individual. What does this say to you?
Well, it says that it needs to be fixed. I agree with that. And it's almost an immediate and quick fix that can be done. The policy can be changed internally, how the decisions are made in the process for doing it. And it needs to be changed immediately. And as we've talked about before, Taylor, there needs to be a coordinated effort between all of these entities so we can address this problem that we're dealing with in juveniles, not only in Baltimore City, but across the nation. And that involves parenting issues. I mean, the parents need to know, because these young children are children of parents who have birthed them and brought them into this world and have some fiduciary responsibility. Even if they can't handle them, they need to have someone to reach out to deal with it before these young people go and commit an act that puts someone in danger. That part needs to take place. The judges or the people involved in making sure that after juveniles are taken off of the street, the consequences are meaningful. And what I mean is, if you want to change the life of a juvenile and it takes 6 months to train them to be a carpenter, you can't give them 4 months, because then when you put them in the juvenile justice center, they can't even train them and prepare them to come back to society. So they're just holding them, releasing them back to do the same thing they did before, or releasing them back to become a greater threat to society. So all those things need to be coordinated. So you have juvenile services, you have the mayor, you have the governor. That needs to be a conversation and a commitment that can take place relatively quickly, not just legislation, because legislation won't deal with what the people in the juvenile justice system know about how long it takes for them to train a person. Because then a judge, for example, could sentence someone if there's a juvenile who had taken off the street, we're given consequences, we want to change their direction in their life, we don't want to put them away forever. If the judge knew that there's a 12-month program that will teach them to be a welder, considering we're doing infrastructure here in the city and across the nation, then the judge will sentence them to 12 months in that training rather than just 6 months in juvenile justice. It's uncoordinated, and as a result, we have to address this issue over and over and over again.
And I think what you're saying about it being uncoordinated is really the biggest issue here when we think about holding juvenile offenders accountable, because right now we're at a place where not only does the juvenile's parent need to be contacted, an attorney needs to be contacted, we're also learning that the time an officer brings in a juvenile, they need to make it a call to a remote officer in DJS to try to decide if that person needs to come into custody. It's a lot of moving parts, and it seems like we're painting over every issue with broad strokes. What do you think needs to happen in terms of streamlining this process?
Yeah, they just need to get together. What we've always had a defensive everyone's taking a defensive stance. The mayor doesn't want it to be his fault. Juvenile Services doesn't want it to be their fault. Baltimore City Police Department doesn't want their role. The governor doesn't want their role. Everybody have to stop playing the blame game. What people want are results. We do not want juveniles causing harm, putting people in fear, where people see a group of juveniles driving up and you already get paranoid, because at some point that's going to lead to some other violence, as we saw with the Squeegee Kid situation. We know where it's heading right now. Get together immediately, put together a meeting and coordinate these things. Even talk to the judges, as I just mentioned, and have that conversation with him. And then talk about a parenting element. In New Jersey, they had the New Jersey Parenting Association, where they were teaching young parents who maybe didn't even have the skill to deal with children who have gone astray, how to get help, how to reach out to juvenile services, or if necessary, how to reach out to the police department without fearing that the police department will do further harm to their child. That meeting, that conversation, that getting together can take place without us playing the blame game. Right now, you have city council blaming juvenile services and juvenile services saying they don't have enough resources, and parents saying they don't know what to do. It is an easy fix if we don't play the blame game, if we look for practical solutions rather than emotional responses, if we understand that legislation won't mean anything unless it comes with funding to change the actions of those juveniles, because even if a juvenile is taken off the street, given consequences for car theft, he or she are coming back to the community. So we want them to come back not as a better car thief, but to be changed. So that part of it. What will it take to change them in the juvenile justice system, to give them the requisite skills to make them civilians that contribute to society rather than take from it? Immediately, this week, next week, over the holidays mean nothing to people who are being victimized. Immediately, we need to get together and coordinate that and stop playing the blame game.
You know, you raised a really interesting point about, I think, an aspect of this conversation that's notably absent from it, parents. You know, we just had that juvenile crime hearing just a few weeks ago, and parents seem to be consistently absent from this conversation. We're seeing more on social media where people are saying, where are the parents? When you look at this issue, how important is it for them to be involved before the next legislative session so that we can get concrete solutions that really impact our communities?
Yeah, very practical, concrete solutions rather than just a blame game. Like I said before, in New Jersey, they developed the New Jersey Parenting Association because someone of intellect who was not just being emotional, who didn't want to play the blame game and was looking for attention, said, look, we need to help all aspects of this. And their parents, and some of them are very young, who had children but don't know how to parent them, guide them, make sure they're educated, get them out of trouble. And when they get in trouble, don't know who to reach out to. There need to be an immediate process to talk to parents about that. Let's be honest, Taylor. In many cases with young people, they've had what we call trophy babies. In other words, they love the beauty of the baby. They love holding the baby and taking pictures, but they don't know how to rear them appropriately. And now they're in a crisis situation between not wanting their child harmed by law enforcement and also not wanting their child to do harm. Someone needs to address that. And we can. There's examples, as I just said, right north of us in New Jersey, of how you address the parenting situation, the juvenile justice situation, have judges do sensible sentences and consequences so we change behavior and not move young people. We want them having consequences, but not move them from being juvenile delinquents to criminal justice experts and sent to prison out of juvenile justice. Immediately we can have that conversation if we just drop our egos, stop the blame game, come up with some practical solutions and look around us at what others had done. There was a major juvenile problem during the 1930s. Look at how they addressed that. Even the director of the FBI at that time, who was J. Edgar Hoover, addressed the juvenile delinquent problem during the 1930s. The solutions are right there for us, but we have to not be so much interested in attention and blaming that we can't come together and get a practical solution to prevent people from being victims.
We'll leave it right there. Dr. Tyrone Powers, law enforcement expert, thank you for adding context to this. Well, you probably heard of a coffee-flavored ice cream, but what about waffle-flavored coffee? Coming up this morning, more on this new brew, when and where you can get it, just ahead.
And we're in for a nice and sunny afternoon as temperatures reach the low 60s, but we've got cooler temperatures coming over the next few days. I'll let you know what to expect as we get closer to the holidays in my full forecast.
Okay, topping your consumer news, you may be having waffles with your coffee this morning, but have you considered having waffles in your coffee? Coffee Mate and Eggo, they're teaming up to make a waffle and maple syrup flavored creamer, and it supposedly adds a rich, syrupy and buttery taste to your morning brew. Now, this new caffeinated concoction will set you back about $5. It'll be available by January for a limited time. Retired firefighters coming together to cook up some breakfast and give back to the community. How a group of old farts, yes, that's right, they got it together. And unveiling the paths of skills needed for success to discover how a local Maryland group is transcending industries beyond construction. You're watching Fox 45 Morning News, all local, all morning. You guys. All right, well, trending right now, new apprenticeship programs coming to Maryland. And this morning, we've got Jennifer DeWeese. She's a leader in construction and the co-founder. Give us more information this morning on the apprenticeship programs in Maryland and how people can take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Morning. So apprenticeships in Maryland go beyond just construction. Obviously, construction has been utilizing apprenticeships for in construction, but other industries like healthcare, tech, business are also utilizing apprenticeships as well.
I mean, they're somewhat like internships in that you really do get that hands-on experience. Why do you think more companies need to implement apprenticeship programs to make sure they have the ready workforce they need?
Absolutely. There's a gap in Maryland and across the entire country of people that need jobs and that are underemployed, but as well as employers that are looking for a skilled workforce. And by creating an apprenticeship program, you're training your own workforce in the ways that you want them to be trained.
So what kind of industries right now do you see offering apprenticeship programs?
So beyond construction, healthcare, IT, business. In fact, the AICPA, the certification or the Association of Public Accountants, is bringing their first apprenticeship program here to the state of Maryland.
Oh, wow.
As well as Governor Moore just announced on Thursday 2 brand new apprenticeship programs here in Maryland. One is for the public sector, so every municipality can create their own apprenticeship programs for their positions that need to be filled, as well as hospitality management. So restaurant managers, hotel managers, even gambling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so typically apprenticeships are considered an alternative option if students choose not to take the more traditional route. But can you explain how they really are really a broad, I mean, you gave us a lot of examples, but they're really a broad area where people can make sure they have what they need in terms of skill sets.
Absolutely. So apprenticeships are not a fallback option. Only about 25% of Marylanders actually have a college degree within 5 years of graduating from high school.
Wow.
So if you think about that, it is the pathway that most people could take that also could give you college credit, because most apprenticeships in the state of Maryland actually come with college credit as well. So it's not an and or option, it's both.
All right, Jennifer, thank you. Thank you, Miss Jennifer. All right, we're going to go ahead and check on the weather right now and see what we're working with this morning. Good morning, Jasmine.
Good morning, Taylor. We are starting the day with beautiful blue skies, plenty of sunshine over Baltimore and really around the state this morning. It is cold, though, 45 for the temperature in Baltimore, but around the rest of the state, we're seeing some cooler numbers. Annapolis at the same, 45, but we also have the 30s, and in western Maryland, we're seeing temperatures right at freezing. So you will want the layers, especially when we consider how it feels compared to just 24 hours ago. Many of us are seeing temperatures over 10, 15, and for some even 20 degrees lower than they were just 24 hours ago. But the good news is that for the afternoon, we are keeping those nice and sunny skies, and we'll have a pleasant day with above average temperatures. Notice we're dry on the HD radar. We have high pressure to our west, and that will remain in place today and tomorrow. We'll stay nice and dry, but later this week, we have our next weather maker. So on the future scan, it looks good for traveling around Maryland today, but if you're doing your Thanksgiving travel to areas north, we'll have a few more clouds and possibly snow and rain showers for portions of New England. We'll dry out overnight, and we start tomorrow with nice and quiet weather. You can see a little bit of green, though, out to the west, and that's associated with the weather maker. It'll lead to a few spotty showers, but the rain stays away from us here in Maryland. We'll start to have more clouds move in for the afternoon tomorrow, but our next weather maker arrives on Tuesday. That could lead to some areas of a wintry mix, and that would likely be to our west, possibly Garrett County. The rest of us, though, looking at rain, which could be heavy at times. So that arrives in the afternoon, and it will continue for most of the region off and on into the night. The rain will gradually start to taper Wednesday morning, and then around the region, mostly cloudy but dry by the second half of Wednesday. So really, we're talking Tuesday and Wednesday as the days when we could have impacts to travel, but we'll be back to dry weather right in time for Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and even for Saturday, we're staying mostly dry. 60 for the high temperature this afternoon. A good day to maybe get outside and rake the leaves, because tomorrow, a big drop in those temperatures. We're looking at a drop in the numbers, 50 on Monday for the high. That is below average for this time of year. We'll rise to 54 on Tuesday, but we have rain. Again, we're looking at the chance for heavy rain at times. It starts in the afternoon, continues overnight, and into Wednesday morning. 58 by Wednesday afternoon as we return to dry weather. Then expect below average temperatures for Thanksgiving with highs around 53. We'll have plenty of sunshine, so overall a gorgeous holiday. Then 54 on Black Friday with a mix of sunshine and clouds. After that, we're talking 54 on Saturday, keeping with that dry pattern. Taylor?
Okay, well, trending this morning, the long-standing battle over iPhone's blue and Android's green text bubbles is going to take a friendlier approach. Apple just announced plans to adopt a messaging standard that will finally bring iMessage features to Android users. The change will add features like read receipts, typing indicators, and better support for group chats, as well as higher quality media sharing of pictures and videos. Sounds great. Okay, look at this. Hidden Valley Ranch is doubling down on a classic. The company announced a new collaboration with itself to make an X-shaped bottle of ranch. Hidden Valley says it comes with double the herbs, spices, flavor, and of course, double the bottles. The new limited edition ranch bottle is now available. Okay, a bright spot for you this morning. Retired firefighters and some current members came together to help benefit the community. It was all part of an Old Farts luncheon and toy drive. Yes, you heard that right. The Old Farts got together to actually have breakfast, not lunch here, while bringing toys for collection for Toys for Tots. Members tell FOX45 News that a certain someone you may know as Saint Nick or Kris Kringle stopped by to join in on the festivities.
Santa was here, so Santa helped us usher the toys off for Toys for Tots. So it was a pretty big deal today for us.
Plus, it is one of their favorite traditions, and that it gives them a chance to hear stories and learn from other crew members of their own. Well, we're looking at highs in the 60s today. After the break, meteorologist Jasmine Lomax will have more on how your work week or vacation, family, turkey week is shaping up in her 7-day forecast.